So Raid Wing 2, one of the most puggable yet most frustrating to pug raid wings that there are, with a few interesting mechanics, 3 bosses that require someone to perform special roles. It can be quite intimidating if you don't know what to expect. But fortunately for you, you clicked on this video, so if you don't know how to complete this raid wing, I will give you all of the tips and tricks to help you clear these bosses with ease, and even if you are familiar with the raid wing, you might learn something new. For masteries, the only mastery that is required is jumping mushrooms and updraft gliding, which the only real one required is the mushrooms for leaving the Slothazor area, which is the first encounter that you will find in the swing. Later, you can just GG to the next boss and have your group carry you if you don't have updraft gliding. The primary gimmick of this boss is the fact that the floor is lava. Well, it's poison. And the only way to make space for this fight is to do what everybody's favorite plumber does and eat some mushrooms. There are 4 blue mushrooms that you eat during different phases of the fight, and you officially turn into a slubling, which then you go around the arena and you eat other mushrooms, which cleans up the floor, allowing your group to move the boss around and kill him. For the most part, the strategy is to eat these mushrooms towards the direction that the next mushroom, the next blue mushroom, is going to spawn. The community has labeled these 1, 2, 3, and 4. While unoriginal, it does get the job done. If your group is lacking DPS, you may need to eat a 5th mushroom or a 6th mushroom, which is just repeating the same ones. So the 5th mushroom is the mushroom 1 guy, the guy that starts the fight, and the mushroom 6 guy would be mushroom 2. In most cases, you won't need to know that or worry about that, but in some cases, you might need to eat again. Take special precaution that while a slubling, you are an enemy target to your team, so you can get pulled, you can get cleaved, or whatever. You are literally a slug. So make sure whoever is currently the tank gives you enough space to do your job. If you get insta-downed or killed as a slub, it is usually a group wipe. So just be careful of the guy who is eating, and be careful if you are a slug not to get too close to your group. These mushroom people should all typically be DPS players since they are the most expendable, and it is a pretty high pressure fight in the form of poisons, conditions, additional adds, and etc. So just punk your DPS players into doing the mushrooms and you'll have an easy day. The boss mechanics itself are pretty straightforward. He has a fire breath attack, a ground pound attack, and a fat break bar into a yawn fear attack. Lastly, and most devastating, is usually the shake attack, which he spits out a bunch of little balls, little coconuts, and they do a lot of condies on you. Fire breath should just be avoided. Ground pound summons 3 circles underneath your feet periodically, so just dodge out of them once the last one spawns. The break bar into the yawn can be counteracted by stun breaks, stability, or a well-timed dodge. And the shake attack can be pseudo-reflected or absorbed, or just dodged twice. There are some cheese mechanics for people with distortion or invulnerability, like the engineer when they use their little elixirs, that you can jump inside of the hitbox and basically absorb all of the coconuts, which mitigates the attack. That's kind of an advanced strategy, but you could try it if you want. In addition to that, there are enemy slublings that get summoned and wreak all kinds of havoc. They strip boons, they give you condies, and they're just all around annoying. Periodically, a team member will get a big green skull with a special action key. This drops an expanding pool at their feet, and they should always drop it behind the group. Behind meaning where you came from. Since you as a group typically circle the map in a counterclockwise location, you should always be moving away from the expanding group that your teammates drop. The tank cycles through the party via a fixate mechanic and just keep moving the boss near to where the mushroom spawns after your slubling is safely back to being a pug. And that's pretty much all I have to say about Slothazor. Classes like Heal Chrono, Heal Druid, Heal Tempest, and Heal Scourge are all good here, and power classes with high levels of CC are also very strong. If you have a class with a pull like the Mesmer does on Focus, it does help to manage adds, but be careful not to pull your friends into the mess. The truth is that this entire wing has been power crept, so almost everything works. And if I had to choose, a heal chrono and a heal scourge would probably be my 2 healers, with high CC boon supports as the alternates. Next up, we have Bandit Trio, where you basically go and destroy the environment for the sake of saving the most observant prisoner ever. There are 3 bosses, hence the trio part of Bandit Trio, that spawn after given intervals. This fight is largely a defend the objective fight that can be completed in a variety of ways. There are 2 things that will wreck your day, being the saboteurs and mortars. Saboteurs come and plant a bomb at a cage. Typically, most groups focus these and kill them prior to them even reaching the cage. But if they do, they pop a break bar, which is pretty easy to pass. The mortars are outside of the camp, which are usually taken care of by a single person. All of them require high amounts of CC, since each mortar guy pops a CC bar. If you break them, it'll stop the mechanic. And during the last phase, there are 3 mortar people that come, so having ample CC makes this really easy. The 3 bosses of the Bandit Trio are a hammer bash guy, which you throw a beehive on him to make the break bar significantly easier to pass. You have a shooty guy who has a large cone AoE, and he hates wargs, so before he spawns or after he spawns, opening the cages to the dogs is a good strategy. He tends to jump around, so you want to stack by the gate that he spawns, because the cone AoE will reach the cage and it'll really mess it up. And then lastly, you have Fire Gal, who is basically just a great value version of Sabbatha, but typically somebody just throws kegs on her, like oil kegs, and your team just stacks a ton of condies on her to burn her down. In between the trio, there are waves of bandits that spawn, so it's important to consistently clear them, and realistically the whole encounter is pretty easy these days. You can throw spare beehives at the cage, which will auto interrupt saboteurs during the final phase, but if you were able to do sloth, you likely won't have any problems doing this one. Lastly, we have Matthias, who is honestly a really fun fight. There are a few things that really help out with this fight, primarily the raid mastery Forsaken Thicket Waters, which will help you clear the poison effect. You don't need this, you can clear it without it, but it does make things easier. The 2 mechanics that you will absolutely have to understand are the poison ball above your head mechanic and the pink skull with special action key. The poison ball does AoE around you, and you cannot clear it unless you go to a well, and the pink skull drops a big AoE on the ground. But if you see the poison ball, you have to go to the water, and if you see the pink skull, then you have to go to the wall. If you understand these 2 mechanics, you can effectively get carried by everyone else. If you mess with these 2 mechanics, you will immediately get noticed and banished to the Shadow Realm by the commander of your party. Beyond that, periodically during the first phase, Matthias tries to murder somebody. You have to use CC on that person. He does summon a bubble and starts machine gunning people. He is invulnerable while doing this, and the only way to make him vulnerable again is to reflect it. It's a safe bet to have multiple people do this. Most commonly, it is done with the skill feedback on a Mesmer, but I have seen people do it with Magnetic Aura, Guardian Walls, and all sorts of options. Just work with what you have. No Corrosive Poison Cloud, no Druid Staff 5, or Herald Bubble. These are projectile destructions, not projectile reflex. He also fires a Hadouken attack, and it is a staff spin when he's in human mode, and it looks like a Kamehameha looking attack when he is in monster form. Just dodge it or it'll really mess you up. Basically, the rest of the fight, you just stack on your healers, you spread out when you need to spread, and avoid the ghost walking through the middle of the arena. It's a Condi DPS preferred fight, and Heal Scourge is absolutely amazing. So are most healers that can handle a lot of Condis and have built-in reflex. Virtuoso is also excellent because it can bring feedback while also still bringing the DPS. And that is Wing 2. It is nothing to be scared of, and the hardest boss is the first one. So if you could get that one dialed in, you should have a clean run through this entire wing. With that, thanks for watching, and a special thanks to all of my subscribers. Drop a comment if you have any special tips for other viewers. Drop a like for the algorithm, and if you dig the content, please consider subscribing. Thanks again, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.